Welcome back to the Fulton County Gospel News Podcast. My name is Barry Odell, and I am your host. Fulton County Gospel News is a bi-monthly publication of the Church of Christ in Mammoth Spring, Arkansas. If you'd like to learn more about our paper, visit our website, mammothspringchurchofchrist.com, and all of the necessary information can be found there. You can receive the paper in one of three formats. You can receive it as a PDF in your email, you can receive it as an individual through the United States Postal Service, or you can receive a bundle of the papers so you can hand them out to your congregation or maybe to some friends and neighbors. Just visit our website and let us know what we can do for you, and we'll be happy to add you to our mailing list. Today I want to read a brief article to you from the April 1990 edition of Fulton County Gospel News. There's no author name listed with this article, and it's just a very short one on the back page of the article, or rather on the back page of that edition, and the title is Too Busy. So I'm going to read that article to you and then share some thoughts with you from Luke chapter 14. A businessman, harassed and discouraged from overwork, took his problem to a psychiatrist who promptly told him to do less work. Furthermore, prescribed the doctor, I want you to spend an hour each week in the cemetery. What on earth do you want me to do that for? What should I do in that cemetery? Not much. Take it easy, look around, get acquainted with some of the men already in there permanently, and remember that they didn't finish their work either. Nobody does, you know. Well, isn't it so? Perhaps many of us become involved in so many responsibilities and affairs of life that we feel we have no time to give to faithful worship of God, no time to study and meditate upon the Word of life, no time for anything but making a living. We just can't take off from our regular routine. Yes, you can. And furthermore, you will someday, and permanently. And the world will go right on without you, just as it has done with countless thousands of people who, like you, thought they just had to attend a multiplicity of matters before they met their obligations to God. Think it over. Very short article, not really even an article, just a thoughtful few words to help us be more considerate of our time. And so as I ran into that particular bit of writing, I thought of a passage of Scripture that I want to share with you, and it comes from Luke chapter 14, and I'm just going to begin reading in verse 25. Now great multitudes went with him, and he turned and said to them, If anyone comes to me, and does not hate his father and mother, wife and children, brother and sisters, yes, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. And whoever does not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. For which of you, intending to build a tower, does not sit down first and count the cost, whether he has enough to finish it, lest, after he has laid the foundation and is not able to finish, all who see it begin to mock him, saying, This man began to build and was not able to finish? Or what king, going to make war against another king, does not sit down first and consider whether he is able with 10,000 to meet him who comes against him with 20,000? Or else, while the other is still a great way off, he sends a delegation and asks conditions of peace. So likewise, whoever of you does not forsake all that he has cannot be my disciple. So that's Luke 14, verses 25 through 33, and there are just a few points I want to make from that particular text, and then we'll wrap it up. So Jesus kind of taught on this concept as well in just a few chapters earlier in Luke, in the parable of the sower in Luke chapter 8, about particular soil that had seed sown in it, but then it was choked out by thorns and briars, and we learn that that's a person who receives the word for a time, but then is choked out by the cares and concerns and distractions of this life. That can happen. And so here in Luke chapter 14, again, verses 25 through 33, we have this idea, a couple of words, I guess, I want to focus in on. The first word is cannot. So it appears in verse 26, there are some prerequisites that you must meet, or you cannot be his disciple. And then verse 27, if we're not willing to take up our cross and follow him or come after him, we cannot be his disciple. And then you get down to verse 33, if we do not forsake all that we have, we cannot be his disciple. And those, in the Greek language, that word that comes to us in the English, the Greek language is an absolute negative. There is no possible way that it can happen. So Luke 14:33 says, So likewise, whoever of you does not forsake all that he has, he is not able to become my disciple. It's not a possibility. Now, the text there in Luke 14:25 and 26 tells us that we have to hate our father and mother, wife and children. All we have to do is go to Matthew 10 and around verse 37. It doesn't mean that we hate or we despise or we resent our physical family. That's not what he's talking about, obviously. But those things are not to take priority over Jesus Christ and his kingdom. That's what he's talking about. And if those things do, if our earthly ties come before our spiritual ties to Jesus Christ and his kingdom, we don't have the ability to be his disciple. It's not possible. That's what the word cannot means here in this text. It is not possible. But then another word that comes out is first. So like in Luke 14:31, what king going out to make war against another king does not sit down first? The one who is going to build a tower, verse 28, he sits down first and counts the cost. And so the word first there is an adverb in the Greek language, and it has to do with first in time or succession. Well, it makes sense. Before you start some major enterprise, by order, by succession, you're going to first count the cost. Well, that's exactly what we have to do if we're going to follow Jesus Christ. We need to be considerate of, what does this require of me? What is it going to take to be a Christian? Becoming a Christian is not just an emotional response to the gospel. We need to think it through. We need to sit down and count the cost. What does it look like if I'm going to claim to be a follower of Jesus Christ? Is there anything in this life that I'm not willing to let go? Are there things that are going to, let's say, crowd out my time for, let's say, the assembly, let's say, fellowship in general with God's people? And if there's anything that we're not willing to forsake, we do not have the ability to be his disciple. So I like the illustration that brief article used about telling a man to go sit in a cemetery and basically take some lessons from people who didn't finish their work. They didn't have enough time. Folks, we have to make time. You know, the funny thing is sometimes with the plans of the church, and I've said this before in lessons and stuff, that it's like when you make plans for the church, whatever it may be, gospel meeting, vacation Bible school, whatever it is, we need like 6 months notice to be able to even think about being there. And sometimes we can have 6 months notice and then cancel at the last minute because, well, I just don't have time to be there. I can't be at the meeting. I can't be at VBS. And yet we can have personal plans change in an instant, and it's no problem. We can change vacation plans, we can change whatever in our daily secular lives to meet something, to meet some requirement that we want, that we really desire, and it's no issue. Why then is it different with the church? Why aren't we as flexible and as dedicated to our scheduling for our time for the Lord and for his assembly and such things as we are with our secular pursuits? Well, it's the cares and the riches of this life that can choke out our spirituality, that can choke out the word. And again, that's a reference to Luke 8 and the parable of the sower. Let's be sure that we're not too busy. Listen, life is busy. There's no question about that. We have a lot going on. There's no question about that. But there needs to be some prioritization in our life. And the Lord and his work needs to come first above everything else. Well, I hope you benefit from this brief edition of Fulton County Gospel News Podcast. If you've not yet subscribed to our channel on Podbean or become a follower, I would encourage you to do that. And when you do so, you can interact with each individual episode. If you're interested in our paper, again, visit our website, mammothspringchurchofchrist.com, and you can subscribe to the paper there. Thanks again for listening today, and I will catch you on the next episode of the Fulton County Gospel News Podcast.